to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and I really don't want to make this episode repetitive like the last couple episodes, and I think that's exactly what this episode's going to be, so my apologies for everyone that's been tuning in week in, week out, and, just keep repeating myself, keep saying the same things over and over again, and, it's the definition of insanity. You do the same thing over and over again. And I feel like that's what we're seeing with the Philadelphia Union right now. Just the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. And it's like, this isn't a team that we've been used to seeing the last couple of years. And, I was talking to a lot of people today. We're recording this podcast at 8:30 at night. After I got off of work, talking to a lot of people today through text. And, I, on one hand, feel bad for the newer fans because they've never endured a losing streak like this at home. None of us have, because this is the first time that the Union have lost 4 straight games at home in league play. But I don't think the newer fans have seen this team lose 4 games ever at home. This is the first time the Union have lost 4 more games at home in regular season play since 2018. And so, I started covering this team full time in 2019, watched on and off in 2017, 2018, watched a little bit more. 2019, we were all in. And so 2018, you felt that year was a little bit different for the Union. You thought things were going in the right direction. Towards the end of the season, Ernie Stewart had left to go to U.S. Soccer. Ernst Tanner was hired, brought in. And then 2019 was his first full season with the Union. And we saw the Union that year obviously get their first playoff win. And, not to discredit anything that Ernst Tanner has done for this organization since he's taken over for Ernie Stewart. But we've seen the last couple of years just a lot of newer fans. And that's fine. We welcome those fans. I'm sure some of you guys listen to this podcast because, when things were looking bleak in Philadelphia, the one thing you had that was constant the last couple of years was the Union just beating teams, just destroying teams at home. And that's fun. You'd see sold out after sold out Subaru Park, and you haven't seen that the last couple years, and that's what happens when you have losing. I've seen people on social media say they're done. They're giving up the season tickets after this year, that they're not coming back. I've saw fans on social media say that they left at halftime during the game. If Jay Sugarman doesn't care, then why should we care? And there's been a lot of hot takes from people. And, I think the people from the older generation, they've seen this team at some pretty low points. I mean, you go back to 2012, they lost 8 games at home that season, and we're halfway there at 4. Do I think the Union lose 8 games at home? I don't. It would be unprecedented with this club. I mean, it already is, where they haven't lost 4 games, like I said, in league play at home since 2018, where they lost 6. And so we're in uncharted territory right now for this team. And I think we're in uncharted territory for a lot of these fans. And it's not the end of the world. It's frustrating. It's concerning. And, I had some friends, text me, Ricky Zelfro, shout out. He's like, man, people are acting like it's the end of the world, and it's not. And he brought up a really good point to me in a text where he said, we've only played 5-6 games at home this season, and we still have a lot of teams to play twice. Okay, we played New York City once already. We played DC United once already. We'll get them at home. We played Orlando at home. We still see them. And so, there's still a lot of schedule to be played, a lot of teams that we haven't even seen yet. And, that's an opportunity to do the league double over them and really start to pick up points. And I think that's a really fair take. Even though, the sky seems like it's falling right now, where, yeah, it seems like the Union just can't do anything right, specifically at home. 1-4-1. Who would have thought that we're 11 games, I think it is now, into the season, and the Union would have a better record on the road than they would at home? It's crazy. It's absolute craziness. And of course, the Union are away this weekend against New England. The Union sit undefeated on the road with a record of 2 wins, 4 draws. We'll see what happens in New England this week. The worst team in MLS with a points per goal total of 0.64. That is horrible. They have 2 wins on the season, 8 losses, 1 draw. And we were talking about Orlando a couple games ago, saying, yeah, this is a game that the Union should win. New York City, they've been hot. They've been getting better. And so there was always going to be a difficult test. And I feel like every time these two teams meet, it's always a difficult game. And we'll see what happens Saturday. But it's dark times, I feel like, for a lot of Union fans, and specifically newer Union fans, because, there's older fans out there that they've seen a lot worse than what we're currently seeing. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We're talking about all these records being broken in 2022, and yeah, we're still talking about records being broken in 2024 for the Union. It's just for the wrong reasons. 4 straight losses at home. And I'm really not going to spend too much time talking about the raccoon. I'm sure there's going to be plenty other shows that are going to talk about that. I'm sure there's going to be, many other podcasts, not even just Union podcasts. You guys have seen all the memes. There's been a lot of articles already written about this raccoon. It's cool. It's funny. Maybe it's what the Union needed to catch their breaths. But I think, the Apple TV crew, by the way, did a fantastic job by just following this raccoon around the whole pitch. The cameramen were fantastic. They picked up the reactions from Mikel Ua, from Jim Curtin, and both of those guys look so pissed. Like, we're losing. How's this enjoyable? How can we break a smile? We're losing. We conceded within the first 2 minutes of the game. Like, what's there to smile and be happy about? And then they showed some New York City players, and they're laughing, they're giggling. It's hysterical to them. They're beating the Union 1-0, 20 minutes into the game. Score within the first 2 minutes. They're having a good time. They've got the Union right where they want them. And no smiles from the Union. And there's a lot of no smiles from you guys. So yeah, it was cool seeing a raccoon, and I'll always associate raccoons with RFK Stadium. So I don't know how the Union can qualify the raccoon as a homegrown when, DC had his rights first. So maybe the Union and DC came to an agreement, and now the raccoons are going to start playing for the Union. But that's all I wanted to make mention on that. Like I said, you guys have seen all the memes. You guys have probably listened to shows talking about that. So that's all I'll say on that topic. But yeah, last night's press conference wasn't great with Jim Curtin, and I don't typically play his opening statements. And so I think that's exactly how we should start the night talking about this game, is just listening to Jim Curtin's opening statements, how he assessed the game.
Stating the obvious here, but we've become uncharacteristically fragile at home, which hurts. It hurts our fans. It hurts our coaches. It hurts our players. Again, there's no moral victories in this thing. Got in at halftime after conceding another, stupid goal at the end of the half, where we commit a foul that was unnecessary and concede a goal that you'd see at a U12 level, which hurts. But at least had a healthy discussion at halftime with the guys, where I didn't speak. I let them speak. I think a lot of good things were said. And a good response from the group. So again, it still hurts. No excuses on losing at home. We should never lose at home in this fashion. But again, the guys fight till the end. We have to find a way to get out of this. We're the only people that are going to get us out of it. The people in that locker room, the coaches, the players. I think they recognize that. And like we've said before, it's the same group, and that's what was said at halftime. That's shown they can beat anybody, and we're the only ones that can dig us out of this now.
Love that mentality. It's us against the world. That's the mentality right there. Nobody else is going to dig us out of it but us. The only people we have is each other. And I appreciate Jim Curtin saying that. Yeah, obviously I'm making a joke. But I do appreciate Jim saying that because, Jim's a coach that's not going to throw his players under the bus. He's not going to throw specific players under the bus, I should say. He's a manager that's going to protect his players. And I think earlier you hear Jim say, the second goal that we concede, you see that at the U12 level. And that's the first time that you've really heard Jim specifically complain about a goal that they've given up. I mean, yeah, he's made comments the last couple of weeks, it's uncharacteristic mistakes. These are uncharacteristic goals. But then he's specifically talking about, that goal, the second goal, where Oliver Zemla could have done a lot better. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But of course, we all know he was talking about Oliver, but he doesn't mention him specifically. But of course, that's who he's blaming. And listening to Jim Curtin's press conference, just being there, just looking at his facial expressions, he kind of seemed like a manager that just doesn't have answers right now. And I don't think this team has any answers how to get out of this funk. I mean, it's uncharacteristically fragile, as Jim Curtin put it. One little mistake, and it feels like the house comes crumbling down. And you concede so early, and then you concede right before the break. And how many times does this keep happening? It's happened so many times. And that goal, the second goal, I'll go back to that. There's no reason for it. Yeah, Kai Wagner fouls a guy out of frustration because prior to the foul by Kai thinks he gets hit in the face. And so then he takes out the guy because he's angry. And so you think, all right, this is basically a corner kick. We'll defend this like we normally do a corner kick. And Jim says, yeah, when the guy's facing the touchline, no need to foul. You have him exactly where you want him. And Kai comes in there just full steam ahead and fouls him, picks up a yellow card. Didn't need to happen. Okay, it happens. You understand it. But there's no reason why Wolf should be scoring basically from the corner flag. Oliver Zemla gets his positioning all wrong. He's closer to the near post than he is the back post. And Wolf sees that. And so it's a good curling ball to the back post. And Oliver misjumps, doesn't get it right. And now it's 2-0 New York City. And that's 7 goals conceded in the last 15 minutes of the first half, tied for the most in MLS with Portland. It's ridiculous. 3 times the Union have conceded in the first 15 minutes. So, yeah, it's not a lot of goals getting conceded at the start of the game. But you know what they are conceding a lot of? Chances. And you cannot concede as many chances as the Union are conceding right now in the first 15 minutes of this game. I was talking to Kyle Almany, one of our many conversations today, where I said, it's like you don't have the answers to how to fix this. You don't. It's unexcusable. It's like if you could switch the first half and the second half, then everything would be fine. It is insane to me just how much different those two halves are for the Union. That's exactly what I told Kyle. How? How can you concede? I'll look up the number here in a second. How can you concede so many goals in the first half? You're conceding 13 goals in the first half. 13 goals. That is the second most in MLS, one behind Portland. Only 5 goals scored in the first half. And then you look in the second half, 17 goals for, 8 against. And that's the second most goals scored in the second half. One of the fewest amount of goals conceded in the second half. It's insane. It makes no sense to me how the Union can just be the polar opposite. It's two completely different teams, it seems like. And I guess part of that is because the Union are conceding so many goals in the first half. Okay, then teams are going to start parking the bus. They're going to be sitting deep. And so then you expect the Union to take a lot of shots and have a lot of opportunities to get on the goal sheet, which they do in the second half with Julian Carranza. It's a beautiful set piece routine. The Union's league leading 9th. But I don't have the answers. I really don't know why. Like, how do you get this team to be checked in the first half like they are in the second half? And I know 2 games ago against Orlando, they give up that goal right at the start of the second half. But for the most part, the Union have been really, really good in the second half. And again, part of that is because they're conceding so many goals in the first half. So teams don't have to come at the Union. Teams can just sit deep, play a low block, and then they force the Union to try to break them down. And so the Union don't get a goal from open play. They get a goal from a set piece. And I feel like we're seeing close to 50% of the Union's goals this season. I don't have the number in front of me. I'm sure Kyle Almany will speak about that on his podcast. He mentioned it to me in the press box, but I forgot the number because I'm honestly exhausted. But I know it's up there. Close to 50% of the Union's goals are scored from set pieces this year. It's insane. I know it's over 40. And that number seems a little bit maybe too high. Like, yes, you want to be scoring set piece goals, but eventually the Union's luck is going to run out on set pieces. And so then where do your goals come from open play? Because you're currently not really getting many. And I don't know, just like I said, listening to Jim speak, looking at his facial expressions in that press conference, he looked broken. A guy who's searching for answers, a guy who, him and his staff are putting in so much work looking at all the analytics, all the data, just trying to figure out something. And they're out there on the training field, tweaking little things here and there, trying to correct any issue that they can correct, and they're just not getting corrected. The first goal is just insane to me, a minute 50. It's all it takes for New York City. The Union are inside New York City's half of the field when Jack McGlynn gives away the pass. The pass was intended to Leon Flock. The Union, like they always do, they try to turn New York City over in their own half. You had Wagner, Harriel, and Elliott all pushed up high. A line-splitting pass from Andres Pereira into Santi Rodriguez, who's wide open on the right because, you have Kai Wagner pushed up so far on the left-hand side. And so now the only defender you have back is Jacob Glesnes. Jack Elliott's running back. Jack McGlynn's running back. You have guys that are trying to get in possession. And when you're chasing the ball, you're not set in position. Of course, things are going to go badly for you. And you guys can see that goal and the other 2 goals and the many chances the Union had in this game. And the goals breakdown video, youtube.com/freekickpod. And you just felt, as soon as Jack McGlynn gave away that pass, the poor pass, you had a feeling New York City were going to score on it because the Union would just push so high up. And they're an aggressive team. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. And so they're trying to force a turnover in New York City's box. Doesn't happen. It's a beautiful pass towards the back post by Santi Rodriguez to Martinez and 1-0. Woof. What more do I have to say about that? It's ridiculous that he's scoring from that angle. Jim said it best. It's a goal that you see in U12. Shouldn't be happening at the professional level, but it did. It's a lot going wrong for this team right now. We saw Phil Wedding come out 6 minutes before the halftime was over to work with Zemla. Like to see it, and wasn't too busy in the second half. Oliver wasn't, but when New York City did put shots on target in the second half, he did make the saves comfortably. But yeah, that second goal is unexcusable. Did the Union have a chance in this game? Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, and I'm sorry that I keep repeating myself episode after episode, but this team really is in it until the very last second. You see what you thought was the game tying goal with Jack Elliott, but Daniel Gazdags ruled off with a pass from Bedoya, and Jack Elliott puts the ball in the back of the net. Then the flag goes up. Linesman did a great job there, just not blowing it dead right away. Let the play develop, and the ball winds up in the back of the net. Then we'll put up our flag, and well done to the linesman and the referee crew, who I feel like don't get a lot of credit. On that play, they did a fantastic job. But the Union fought till the end once again. Had a chance last game against Orlando City. Daniel Gazdak has his penalty kick saved. Jack Elliott thought he had the game-tying goal, and that gets ruled off for offsides. And so, I mean, the one thing you can't say about this team is they do have heart, they do fight, and until that whistle blows, they're always going to believe they have a chance. But it's like, you see that fight, you see that belief, but where is it in the first half? Why are these mistakes happening? I don't have an answer. Jim Curtin doesn't have an answer. The players don't have an answer. Maybe one of you listeners have an answer, and then Jim can hire you on to the coaching staff, and you guys can bring the data. You can bring the analytics to them and say, hey, look, this is all you need to correct, and you'll be good to go. A lot of chances created. Julian Kranza had 9 shots this game. Can you believe that? 9 shots. Only 2 of those were on target. Scored a goal. Good set piece, but just not good enough by the Union on the night. Matt Freese, I think that's a positive for New York City. I think it's a positive in a sense for Union fans because he came through the academy, played a couple times, more than a couple times with the first team. Always liked Matt Freese, and you felt bad for him that he was stuck behind Andre Blake, and so the opportunities were far. And I asked a question. I was like, should the Union have kept Matt Freese and let Andre Blake walk after the season? And I don't know. I mean, of course, it's easy to, ask that question and think about it when Andre's been hurt for majority of the season. And of course, Matt Freese is much younger than Andre Blake is. But man, Matt Freese was fantastic last night. 76.3 save percentage in MLS, which is the 5th most in MLS this year for goalkeepers who have played 8 or more games. 3rd highest PSXG plus minus, which essentially means, their goals or their shots that should have been goals, but the goalkeeper saved them. And Matt Freese is at 4, which is tied for the 2nd most in MLS. But I think, yes, the shot stopping ability is really good. We've known that, I think, for a while now with Matt. But what impresses me the most? Okay, 2 things. One, I don't know if you guys noticed this on goal kicks. Matt Freese would always just play it out of the back, play it short. And that's the City way. I mean, you see Manchester City do it all the time. They're not sending long balls up top, rarely. They're playing out of the back. And, the New York City, Man City connection, that DNA from City is all over New York. And that was impressive to see. Matt Freese comfortable with the ball at his feet. Really wasn't the case with Union because the Union don't expect the goalkeepers to be good with the ball at their feet. They got to be good shot stoppers, which Andre is, which Matt Freese is. 76.3%, 5th highest in MLS. It's a really good shot stopper right there. But I think the thing that impressed me the most about Matt Freese is just how vocal he was with his teammates. From the press box, you could hear it clearly. I don't know about the seats, but you could hear Matt just yelling out where Union players were, yelling out to his teammates, hey, this is the position. This is where you need to be. Hey, be aware of this. Be aware of that. Matt Freese was very, very vocal. And you don't really hear that from Oliver Zemler. Don't really hear that much from Andre Blake. You hear it more from Blake than you do Zemler, but nonstop I heard Matt Freese just constantly communicating with his teammates. And that is so crucial because maybe he's seeing something that his teammates don't see. When they're backs against the ball, Matt Freese is yelling out, "Hey, look, man on, man on. Uh, blah 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 is open." And I think that's very, very underrated. Just having a goalkeeper that's very vocal, communicating to you nonstop, keeping you in position, telling you, "Hey, look, shift over left, shift over right, drop, push." I mean, it's simple stuff, but I think it's something that gets underrated a lot in the game. And maybe I was able to hear it a lot more last night. Maybe all goalkeepers do it because Subaru Park was pretty quiet on a Wednesday night or a rainy, dreary Wednesday night. No shots, but it was quiet. And I think the weather definitely played a factor into that. New York City fans, though, were pretty loud. But Matt Freese, I mean, you love to see former Union players do well, except for when it's against you. And that made me think, are the Union the goalkeeping academy for MLS? They've got a lot of former academy players and former first team goalkeepers playing in MLS. CJ Dos Santos down in Miami, Ben Martino with Nashville, Tomas Romero with New York City, John McCarthy with LA Galaxy, McMath with RSL, Matt Freese with New York City, Carlos Cornell played a couple games with the Union with New York Red Bulls. And so, I don't know. Do you guys think that the Union are a goalkeeping academy? Should the Union have held on to one of those guys, maybe one of those academy players? CJ Dos Santos, I know when he left the academy, he went to Benfica. I know Ben went to college. Tomas, I believe, also went to college. And so they left the academy without getting first team contracts and came back to MLS and then eventually signed with other teams. And I don't know, do you think the Union maybe should have given some of those guys first team contracts? Because the only homegrown player out of that list that I mentioned was Matt Freese. And we know that they gave Andrew Rick a first team contract out of the academy. And you hope that Andrew's going to turn out to be like Matt Freese, better than Matt Freese. But I think Andrew's a ways away from starting first team games with the Union. And I'm fine with Oliver Zemler. It's a huge mistake that he gave up. Don't get me wrong. And I think a lot more people would be complaining if Joe Bendick was still the goalie. But, Oliver is going to learn from those mistakes. He's going to get better. But it was interesting just looking at all the former goalkeepers, either in the academy or with Union's first team at some point, just throughout MLS. It's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. Another thing I think that bothered me, and I think it probably bothered all of you guys, was Jim Curtin's decision to make 2 defensive changes instead of bringing on strikers.
Yeah, look, the subs at the end, I know when they happen, people see them as defensive, but we asked Olivier to go almost as like a right winger. Didn't really get as forward as we had hoped. Jose as well, told him to take some risk in there and join the attack for cutbacks. At that point, John, we were thinking Mikel was having a good game. Julian was having a good game. Danny was, I thought having a decent game. Balls weren't bouncing to him in the box, but so we went with those 3 attackers staying on the field. Could we have, thrown another striker in and then, taken out off a defender? For sure, maybe. But I thought our structure was good. We were getting chances and just didn't finish.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the story of the last couple of games. The Union haven't finished. Didn't finish against RSL, didn't finish against Seattle, even though, like I've been saying, they've been scoring in every single game, which is great. But Orlando City, a lot of wasted opportunities. Against New York City, a lot of wasted opportunities. Only 1 goal. Julian, 9 shots. 2 of those were blocked. Mikel Ua, making really good runs. Taking players on 1v1. Daniel Gazdag, I thought, was probably the worst of the 3. But your friend too, I understand, why you're not going to put on Chris Donovan or Ty Rebo just because both of those players were having a really good game. And Julian had already had one goal. Mikael Ork created 2 chances in the game, making really good runs, confident taking on players. You'd like to see it. But Jim opts not to put on another striker. He puts on Olivier Bizo, and you heard him there saying, yeah, we want to play Bizo as a right winger. Couldn't tell. Honestly, could not tell. Bizo, non-existent. Might as well have been playing down a man when he came onto the field. Jose Martinez also didn't do anything. I think, if you're going to bring on either Donovan or Baribo, I'm bringing on Donovan just because of his aerial ability in the air. Nate Harriel had multiple chances off of corner kicks in this game and wasn't able to find the back of the net. New York City were susceptible in the air. So why not bring on Chris Donovan to try to win one of those headers? You're not going to get a chance on the ground. And they did actually get a chance on the ground with Jack Elliott, which I was surprised about. Union did a really good job to break down New York City there. And unfortunately for the Union, the goal was ruled off. No way that should have happened. But it did. Bad defending by New York City. But I don't know. I think it would have went with Donovan there. Makes no sense to me. I mean, I guess in theory, yeah, you want to push Martinez and Bizo higher up the field. You think it's going to make a difference with cutback passes, with taking on players 1v1, but neither one of those chances worked out. And I know if they would have worked out, then I'd be sitting here, oh, Jim Curtin's a genius. I mean, I said it in Nashville. It was a good change in Nashville. Olivier Bizo made the difference. Didn't happen tonight. When it works out, you look like a genius. When it doesn't, it's like, what are we doing? And you get questioned on why. Why are you leaving strikers on the bench? And so that was Jim Curtin's reasoning. And I don't know. I think I still would have put on an extra striker. Yeah, I know the formation's going to look weird, but when you're chasing a goal anyway, I feel like the formation looks weird. And then the last clip that I want to play is something really interesting from Jim Curtin. He says 9 games left by the time anything can shake up in terms of transfers being brought in.
I don't know if you guys have seen where the transfer window falls this year. It falls in the same spot, but where our schedule is, we'll have 9 games left by the time anything can really shake up. So that's why when I say it's going to be us and only us, nothing's going to change. So we recognize that. The guys that play the bulk of the minutes, I have full confidence that, they can turn this around and get results. But yeah, that sounds cliche at this point. You guys are sick of me saying it, and I'm sick of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's sick of hearing that. Jim's obviously sick of hearing that. But I don't want to hear that. That bringing in players with 9 games left, that's not enough time to shake up. Now, I took that as Jim Curtin was talking about not before the transfer window opens up, because if you look at it, there are 12 games remaining until July 18th when the transfer window opens up. And then you have 10 games after July 18th. The transfer window closes for MLS on August 14th. And so Jim's saying, well, with 9 games left, you would assume that Jim's talking about later, like once the transfer window opens up, not beforehand. So I don't know. That's the way that I interpreted it. Maybe I'm completely off. I don't know. Maybe you guys understood that differently, but I think what Jim's saying there basically is, yeah, we're not going to make any moves. That's how I took it. Or if we do make moves, they're not going to make an impact, which I think's absolute bullshit. Look at LAFC back in August of 2021, I believe it is, when they got Chico Arango. Scored 14 goals or something like that with half of the league games remaining, something like that. And in half of those games, he won Newcomer of the Year. I don't want to hear it that, yeah, it's not enough time for those players to make an impact. No, what the issue is anytime the Union make moves in the summer transfer window, Jim Curtin doesn't play them. That's what the issue is. It might not be because, oh, the player's not ready. Jim always says, oh, they got to learn the system. They got to learn our style of play, blah, 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 blah. But when you're desperate for points, try anything. That's what the issue is. 9 games left by the time anything can shake up. You don't know what will happen. What options do you have now currently? What options? You have nothing on the bench. You're bringing on defensive players. Defensive players to steal you a point? Ridiculous. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks. There is no game changer on the bench for the Union. So go out and sign somebody. I don't care, if there's only 9 games remaining before anything can be shaken up. Maybe they hit the ground running. Maybe they score a hat trick in 3 out of 9 of those games. You don't know. 3 out of 10 of those games. Who knows? You don't know unless you try. Davo is one of those players that come to mind where the Union were desperate for a striker. That's why Ernst Tanner went out and got a striker. And Davo played 16 minutes at best, 14 minutes at best against New England, maybe even less. What a waste of a loan. I don't know. Maybe it is best if the Union just don't go out and sign anybody this summer because it's not like they play them anyway. Richard Odada, Makanya, Abasa. Who else have the Union brought in the summertime? Is that it? I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Tyber Rebo? Tyber Rebo. I think he's actually the most. The last couple summer transfer windows that have played in the summer. 5 games, 6 games, sound about right, that he played once they brought him in. And Jim Curtin and the coaching staff saw enough. And now he's in the doghouse. It's insane to me. But it's pretty much all my thoughts on this game. Oh, one more thing. Ed Fagan, you asked about these numbers. You asked, hey, can you look up the home record plus points per game from this season to when the Union first came in MLS play? So the Union's best points per game, best record at home was 2020 during COVID, but there's a little asterisk on that. 10 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, 2.8 goals per game at home. But there was also during MLS is back, right? When they played down in Florida. So some of those games counted as home games. So I think when the Union returned to Subaru Park, if my memory is correct, I think the Union went 8-0, something like that. But yeah, 2.8 points per game in 2020. If you don't want to count that, then the next best would be 2022 with a 12 wins, 0 losses, 5 draws, 2.4 points per game. Currently, the Union are 1-4-1, 0.67 points per game, which is by far the worst total for the Union. You got to go to 2012 for their worst, where they had 1.3 points per game, 7-8-2 record. If you want the rest of the records, I'll go over that quickly for you guys. 2010, 6-3-6, 1.6 point per game. 2011, 7-1-9, 1.8 points per game. 2012, 7-8-2, 1.3 points per game. 2013, 7-5-5, 1.5 points per game. 2014, 6-3-8, 1.5. 2015, 7-7-3, 1.4. 2016, 8-5-4, 1.6. 2017, 10-4-3, 1.9. 2018, 9-6-2, 1.7. 2019, 10-3-4, 2 points per game. 2020, 10-0-1, 2.8. 2021, 11-3-3, 2.1. 2022, 12-0-5, 2.4. 2023, 10-1-6, 2.1. And then currently, 1-4-1, 0.67. So the worst, 2012. The best, 2020 with an asterisk. Don't want to count that. All right, 2022. But currently, 0.67 points per game at home. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. 8 out of 12 times now the Union have conceded first in the first half. Not good. Not good at all. 3 stars on the night, which really hard. Or actually, I thought there was some solid individual performances, which is also insane that the Union actually do have some players playing at an all-star level. They won't get voted into the all-star game because they have a terrible record, but number 3 on the night for me, Kai Wagner. 5 chances created, 9 out of 16 accurate crosses, 3 out of 4 tackles won, 1 interception, 7 ball recoveries. He was dribbled by twice. And so I would have had him in second if he wasn't dribbled by that many times. Can't be getting beat 1v1. You got to win your duels. You got to win your ground duels. Kai Wagner getting dribbled by, not great, but he was excellent, I thought, on corner kicks, on his free kick deliveries, 5 chances created, 9 out of 16 accurate crosses. It's really good. Really good. Kai Wagner creating a lot of chances. Mikhail Uhr, 2 chances created on the night, only had 2 shots. Those stats aren't going to blow you out of the water, but watching what he did off the ball, taking players on, 1v1 dribbling, connecting well with his teammates, I would have liked to see the Union get Mikhail more involved inside the 18-yard box with hold-up play, but they didn't. But I thought Mikhail had a really, really solid night for the Union. Unfortunate not to get an assist. And then Julian Kranzler, 1 goal, 2 chances created, 10 touches in the opposition's box. It's good. It's good. 9 shots by Julian. 2 of those were blocked. Got a lot of opportunities specifically from Kai Wagner. Again, you guys will see those in the goals breakdown video, but it just wasn't a solid night overall as a team. But individual performances, I thought, yeah, there was some real solid performers out there for the Union. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the Substack website, thefreekick.substack.com. And man, I hope we can get a win because we're getting closer and closer to episode 300, and I don't want any more negative episodes. And for you people that still listen to the podcast with the Union losing, I don't know how you guys are doing it. Like, I applaud you guys. I probably would tune out if I'm being honest. I mean, I would have tuned out a while ago listening to this podcast when you guys are just listening to me speak, but hey, some of you guys like it, I guess. Fair amount of you guys like it. So I appreciate their support as always, and hopefully we see a win this Saturday in New England on turf. I'm sure we'll see some rotation. Damian Lowe wasn't available against New York City because he had a back injury, Jim Curtin told us. So will he be good to go against New England? We shall see. I'd expect Bedoya to get probably back into the lineup, Martinez back into the lineup. Do you rotate Nate Harrier and Biazo? Potentially. Actually, they probably do, which I won't be happy about, but I can definitely see that happening. So your changes are going to be Bedoya, Martinez, Harriel, and maybe a center back. So yeah, I think that's going to be 3 changes right there for Jim Curtin. Maybe Andre Blake's going to be available. So Andre and net, your 4 changes right there. But we'll see. And so that means new podcast for you guys on Monday. Hopefully a Union win. As always, thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for sharing, for interacting with me on social media, and giving me your guys' thoughts. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.